What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Dan here, and welcome to my review of The Expanse, episode 4 for season 4, Retrograde. Now, first, I'm going to say I'm sorry I haven't released these in a while. It's just life. Alright, good. So, where we last left off was the RCE people had jumped the Belters, who they suspected of blowing up their shuttle. The last episode ended with Mercury. Basically, you get a first-person shot of him blasting the dude in the head. Picks up right there. The doctor, the Belter doctor who's been helping out Lucia, sees that Mercury's gone and acts all the what they call the subversive types, as you might say. So, she's freaking out, and Naomi's like, "Hey, what's going on?" It's like she tells, "Hey, Mercury just shot these guys," and meanwhile, when Naomi's trying to get her back up, Amos comes in, tackles some of the RC guys, starts beating the shit out of him, and then he gets his ass kicked, and Mercury is like basically cuff him, kind of thing, like they take him back to the barracks and cuff him. So Holden gets the news from Naomi what's going on, and sad thing is, Jim trying to do the right, Holden trying to do the right thing, accidentally tips his hand when he calls him out. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? If Naomi's like, oh god, he didn't know that Naomi was with him. So this kind of spills the beans and kind of puts him in a precarious situation because he knows that Naomi is with Lucia. They go and block off the Rossi, so they're having trouble getting there. But meanwhile, because Jim and Holden and Alex have been out, checking out the protomolecule stuff, they haven't been able to really get they've been far out, doing research. So that's all happening, and we cut to back onto Earth, and we only get like 2 shots of Earth, and this is kind of a setup for something that we see later. Is Christian is basically doing sending him a video, very sickly sweet but then she starts dropping F bombs, message telling him, hey, like, what the fuck is going on down there? So like, can you basically take your time out of your busy schedule, as she says. So and then she's going in for an interview, which we see later on in during one of Bobby's scenes, because it's playing in the background at the bar she's at. And it's talking about Nancy Gow and how, because she leaked the info about her being getting a boost up by a previous education secretary. So it's like, it's one of those things that people will use. Cause it's really interesting now watching it during an election season, seeing that kind of stuff that people, the skeletons that people will drag up to basically shit on people. And again, this part and wasn't in the. I actually, because I've never read Gods of Risk, which is the book Bobby's storyline chase up. I don't remember that actually. I don't remember seeing that, but this is kind of this nice, going back to the politics that was part of this. A lot of people got in the show, and so we go back to Mars. Bobby kind of feels guilty about what's the word they use? Not larceny. That's the word. And because it's not embezzlement, it's larceny, grand larceny, actually. In fact, now, so yeah, she goes and tells her boss, like, "Hey, I did a bad thing," and her boss is like, okay, so, but she basically said, the reason why she did was she told him honestly, hey, I got blackmailed, I needed, I didn't do it, I'd be screwed. And he's like, okay, it's fine. Basically said, I'd hate to lose you because she's good at what she does. But he comes up and says, hey, since people are looking for parts, we got a bunch of shit from here, and she's like, what? And he basically says what you'll see actually throughout the whole season is there are a number of Martians who are like who are on board with what the Earthers are. They're like, why are we focusing on terraforming Mars? So take another, even if let's say they got like proto-molecule tech, because that shit can like do some crazy shit. I mean, it built a wormhole and built structures, so who knows if it could, I mean, it hijacks life forms. I mean, who knows if it can, if Mars got a hold of proto-molecule, they could suddenly habitable Mars. But barring that, it's going to take another like at least 100 years. So a lot of people are like, it'd be like, why are we going to come here when there's no water, when there are planets that actually have air, open air, and everything? And some of them are pretty close to Mars's gravity. Like it was funny because this was actually, I mentioned before that there were in the book, some of the RC scientists were commenting on finding a place that about the size of Mars that would be sorry about that, that would have a magnetic field and air and all that stuff. And this is even commented because when her boss says we should work together and because work with was it Esai Martin, so the cop, so Detective Martin, she's like, no, fuck off, I don't want to do it. And there's a nice kind of part where she meets this I believe he was a MCR, so he was part of the Navy, and Bobby was like, doesn't Mars feel kind of like almost dead? Like I mean, it is a desert planet, but basically, does it feel like all the spirit that makes Mars gone? It was a nice little and it's kind of interesting because the Dock Master and even Esai, we find out there is that this shit's going to waste. Why are we gonna let Tight Beam later on? A little bit of a spoiler for later on. They're talking about things like water purification or environmental stuff or advanced circuitry. They're like, whatever. But what I thought was interesting is pointing out is there's a lot of parallels to the fall of the Soviet Union, this timeline, and that a lot of top brass generals were selling off things like AKs and attack helicopters, and basically bribing quartermasters and dock workers, either bribing them or basically keeping them in the loop or basically threatening them or getting the right people. So I thought that was kind of interesting. This is actually, so Bobby gets busted for grand larceny by the cops because she told her boss to off, and he said, I'm gonna report you. And look who shows up, Esai, and he's like, so need help getting out of jail? He's like, yeah, I could, and I'll work for you. And he's like, you still got your job? No. He's like, I got something you can do. No, this is Bobby we're talking about. So back on Illis, we got Amos is locked up. Mercury is hunting Lucia and what's her face? Naomi. Lucy gets shot because as I said, Naomi's kind of having trouble adapting, and on their way over to get them, Alex is like, hey, I need a level you hold in. She's not adapting well, and we need to take her up. And that's what's really cool. It's a race to get them away. And so because Lucia and her are injured, Naomi used some quick thinking and gets the PDCs to basically start firing and searing off the RC, which is like, it's funny. You look at it and like, I never realized how big those rounds were, because you think of like modern machine guns or rotary guns, and you think of the Dillinger, which is not, it's a big round, but I mean these things are, keep in mind, these things are designed to take out fucking missiles. So yeah, I mean, like, it looked like rockets hitting the. It was a really cool effect. So they managed to get Alex and Naomi and Lucia back to the ship and take off. It was really kind of sad, is because Naomi, I was sad, is she was like, like, and she tells him the reason why she was pushing, is because she didn't. This was a kind of an interesting part that gets brought up. I'm going to talk about the Belter part. Was really interesting. Is that she wanted a choice to be able, whether or not, to live on a planet with an atmosphere, at least like something like Earth. Like, she wanted to be able to like have the choice. I think deep down she's saying she had the choice to go onto Earth, but that's kind of. And I'm gonna wrap up with, this is not in exact order, but I'm just trying to go the easiest part. So we get back in Seoul, back in the Bell. Ashford and Drummer get introduced to Marco and Naros. Naomi's baby daddy, if you want to, or more like Che Guevara, is probably a better description of the guy. This guy's like Che Guevara in space. So he tries to basically convince Ashford to let him go with a bribe. He's like, no, you're not. And Drummer's like, I'm also a friend of Naomi, and you got some explaining to do. So we get to really, Marco has, what I really like was this kind of chat between both Drummer and Marco, and then later on Marco and Ashford, and it really, there's a lot of nice little drops and hints for what's going to happen later. So when Marco's talking with Drummer, we're getting into the history of Naomi and Marco. Like, he talked about, when he was younger, basically what caught him, what kind of got them all into the, the OPA, the very radical stuff. He came from, again, a very like revolutionary type thing. And Naomi kind of fell in love with him. And what was interesting is we find out, and this is something that's going to come out later, is that Marco kind of tricked Naomi into blowing up a OPH a ship, and it just haunted her, and that's kind of how we get why she left Marco, because she couldn't handle that shit. And it seemed like he was trying to not seduce sexually, but like use charisma to get Drummer to like go in line with him, but it doesn't work. So meanwhile they're getting chased by by one of Marco's ships, and what happens is everyone kind of leaves room just to make sure, just in case they got to get to fight, and Marco starts talking shit to the Ashford, saying you were this hero. You used to stole, as he said, stole things from the oppressor and helped make the belt a paradise. Basically, his whole thing, and this comes out when he is being tried by a Belter tribunal of like Drummer, Ashford, and like three other OPA factions. So basically, it was a 5-faction. I guess it would be Quintrude. I'm not going to try, but But we get the opinion that a lot of the OPA realized that things are going to be different now because the rings have opened. Marco is arguing, no, shit hasn't changed. People, I mean, situations do change, and situations can change people, but what's it called? Earth and Mars aren't, well, especially Earth, because while we see the kind of the fall of Mars, because Bobby even comments, like, in her part, like, does this seem different? Like, does Mars seem different? Like, there's a lot, like, it's not the same. So, like, and even Marco comments on that when he's talking with the Astros. He says, Mars is not the same Mars we're used to fighting. And then that point after, like, what does Mars have to do with anything? Because he talks about, so we're getting the hint that Marco has something to do. That's the kind of the first negative connection that we're getting between Marco and Mars. Because remember, we saw OPA people, and we see Marco talking about Mars not being what it used to be. So maybe there's hints that Marco is buying essentially AKs from Mars, AKs and attack helicopters, or in this case, tight beams and water purifiers, and maybe something a little nastier. But they all kind of they do a kind of a tribunal, and Marco's like, fine, I admit it, I did all that stuff, but he does a whole little, like, like what we think of as like the Tyrion Lannister speech, like trying to persuade people, but not the whole like I wish like I wish I could, but more like you judge me, like you're basically betraying what you all stood for. You basically calling them all hypocrites. But he was like, fine, if you don't want me to violate the treaty, how about a bribe? And he says, I'll give you guys all the money I got from getting rid of the Sojourner, and and all the here's my profits, and here is the cargo I haven't sold yet. So we cool. And Ashford says kill him along with one of the other OPA factions, but Drummer in the surprise votes to keep him alive, and that's because two of the group people they got, which I believe are Black Sky and Golden Bow, basically feel kind of like their powers being, or they have the most to lose. Like their group tends to find the most to lose with Medina Station coming on live and the blockade getting lifted, so we can go colonize all these new star systems. So she was like, we had to do this to avoid a civil war. And she was like, but I still don't trust Marco, because I think they think like Ashford knows Marco's up to some shit, which I think I love that, because and what I loved about this whole, like, the whole OPA thing is there's a lot of very subtle, like, facial expressions, like when Ashford's talking with Marco about when he mentions Mars, now like his face starts going like, wait, what? Like he's clearly like he's interested in what's going to happen, and I would love it as Marco tries to change the subject to kind of throw him off, and he's like, oh no, it's fine. So what was it? So what were we saying? Which I love that he was trying to do some, like, and that kind of reminds me of me when someone's like, I'm like, hey, this looks great, and like, oh yeah, I'm like, so what about my? So Marco's trying to, like, change. I love that. That was just fucking hilarious. But anyway, that's the episode. I thought it was it was a good episode. It was kind of slow because We had, I mean, the illest part was mostly them running away, and then at the very end, Holden walking back to the to first landing after punching out Mercury. I mean that, but yeah, a lot of the this is a lot of the build up we're gonna get, which I honestly can't wait because, so I said, book four was kind of slow, and the fact that they've added this whole thing with Ashford and drummer on the side along with Bobby is really nice because otherwise it would have been kind of boring. Because there's a lot of just like there are a lot of parts like the whole on Illicit are a lot slower, so I'm appreciating that. So anyway, you guys keep watching, and I'll check you guys out later. Bye.